Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Wander to the Edge. My name is Adam Asher from the Edge of Adventure.
And I'm Zan from Where Gals Wander.
And where do gals wander? If you want to find out, you need to go to wheregalswander.com, Zan's fantastic website, and learn more about that influential travel platform. Zan, great to see you today. It's been another busy week, but this is our special opportunity to get to know some people and share a special time with some friends.
Yeah. When you say get to see me again, is that because when we tried launching this the first few times, you kept dropping me and cutting me out and giving me like severe abandonment issues?
No, it's more because I see you once a week and it feels like all the time. A lot.
Fair enough.
Yes, indeed. But also, too, again, congratulations for those that are just catching up. Wander to the Edge, which we started basically 4 months ago, has already on Facebook reached 1,000 plus followers and likes. And we're kind of celebrating.
And
well, if you look over at Twitter, you'll see we're knocking on the door of 1,000 there. I think we're somewhere in the neighborhood of 900. But if you're following us on, Facebook or watching this on Instagram or YouTube or something like that, pop over to Twitter. We're trying to get to that 1,000 follower mark. But anyway, another great day. This is the opportunity we have to do a special video podcast and introduce you to great friends and travelers. It's truly an honor and a privilege that we have to get together once a week and enjoy this time. And we've got a great guest today. For one, I'm looking forward to this interview, this conversation. This guy's got an amazing story.
Yeah. So his name is Scott Jones. He is best known for visiting every treasured, I forget what he calls it, treasured places, 478 of them. That's every national park, every national monument, and every national conservation area, which, I mean, that's quite a feat. He also has his tagline of tagline free since 1998. And he's here to help us figure out how to just get out more.
We've got a lot to learn, and it's going to be a fantastic chat today, right here on Wander to the Edge. Scott, welcome to the program. Great to see you, brother.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yep. So, Scott, I have to ask, whenever that music plays now and we go off the screen, I dance a little bit. Does that music make you want to dance too? Or is it just...
My feet were moving around under the desk. Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Well, Scott, we already teased the audience a little bit regarding you and your love for travel. Everybody who travels kind of has their own approach to it. You, however, you like to go to these treasured places, and you pride yourself, as you should, on having already been to 478. Surely that's a misprint.
No, there's quite a few of them. That's every national park, national monument, national conservation area. I really started trying to hit all the national parks when I was in sometime after college. And at some point I decided that I should also go see all of the other protected places that were part of the National Forest System or the BLM National Conservation Lands or managed by some other agencies. So the national parks get a lot of attention, and rightly so, but there's some really amazing landscapes out there. A lot of them are under kind of greater threat. And so I wanted to make sure that people weren't leaving those out when they had these large quests to go visit all of these great places.
So how long did it take you? Like, when did you start this journey? Were you like, I'm going to check off the national parks first and then hit the rest? Like, how do you even think about this?
In small bits, I suppose. So I started sometime during college to visit national parks because it was frankly the only vacation I could take. Camping road trips, you're eating like hot dogs and beans and camping and visiting some of the great places. Couldn't afford to go stay in a hotel, so that's what we did. And ended up kind of visiting several in a row, a few summers in a row. And at some point decided, wow, we should just go see all of them. So started doing that. Trying to drive up to, I live in Phoenix, and trying to drive up to a place like Yellowstone or Glacier takes a long time. You have to camp along the way. So my ex and I decided to try to find a place to camp. And so it's a national monument. So we camped there along the way and we'd see it. And then at some point we decided, well, we should just see all the national parks and the national monuments. And then at some point we decided, well, we're passing these other National Park Service sites. Maybe we should see this historic site or this battlefield or whatnot. And at some point we decided we should just see them all. And so that's how it happened. I'm not sure exactly what year that was. I started taking those trips in about 98, 99. And I'd say by the early 2000s, we were trying to hit as many as we possibly could. And I only just finished this last summer. Although I've revisited many along the way, like I definitely have favorites that I want to travel back to that are within good driving distance from here. But it took quite a while. I never actually expected to finish. When we kind of adopted the quest, we assumed that it would be something we'd maybe finish, and if we did, it was long after retirement. But the last several years, when I started to get a lot closer, it became pretty obvious that I might actually be able to pull it off. And when I had the opportunities, I really prioritized this in my life and really made it happen. And to date, it's probably the thing that I'm most proud of doing. One of the things that certainly had the biggest impact on me as a person, and something that I guess I'm an evangelist for at this point.
So what was your first national park? What was your last national park? And which one is your favorite?
So I'm not sure what my first one would be because I did go to some national parks when I was really young. I think the first national park that I went to that really kind of spoke to me in a new way was Wupatki National Monument in northern Arizona, which is a series of Indian ruins, and they're kind of off by themselves. And it kind of made me think about what it might be like to live in that area. It's right near a volcano that erupted, so that was certainly on my mind as a kid. The last park that I visited as part of the quest was Glacier Bay National Park in Alaska, and that was last summer, which capped off a very long trip to Alaska that we finished about half the parks that summer. The prior summer we finished the remainder of the first part of the Alaskan parks. In terms of actually, just to say a quick thing on Glacier Bay. I actually had friends come up and join me for my final park, which was really cool. It was a big surprise I had no idea about. We had originally intended on spending 3 summers finishing Alaska because it's really expensive to do and you have to hire a lot of bush pilots. And so my fiance had actually reached out to a bunch of friends and had like a dozen people that were going to show up for my last park. And unfortunately, I kind of made the command decision at some point to shorten that from 3 years to 2 years, which did make better sense financially. But it ended up forcing a lot of the other people that were going to join me for my last park. It was a surprise to me. I didn't know this was happening, to not be able to go. But it was still pretty cool because I had friends that made up special shirts, and all my friends back home wore it on the same day and sent me photos, and it was really cool. In terms of the favorite park, there's just no way to answer that. Like my top 5 list is probably 35 or 40 long. And of course, the places that are most important to me, every national park experience is a very personal one. And it really depends on your experience at a place, and how much you enjoy that experience depends on so many other factors, whether it's like the weather, random occurrences that happen in the park, maybe a great wildlife sighting, who you're with, kind of the time in your life, and maybe how it impacts you as a person. So my list is probably a lot different than others, but the big wilderness parks are the ones that I enjoy the most. Yosemite, a Sequoia, a Glacier, Yellowstone, Olympic, those are all really high up there.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking today with Scott Jones. and we're getting to know him. He is a fantastic traveler, fantastic story to tell. We're just getting started learning about him, but I want to be sure you can look him up and also connect with him on social media. So Scott, looking here, this would be the handle for what? Twitter. What else? This is your across the board.
Yeah, that's generally across the board. I'm most active on Twitter and a little bit on Instagram. I don't do a whole lot on Facebook. I don't do anything publicly on Facebook with my own profile, except for with just friends I actually know. But you can certainly reach me there or at rscottjones.com. And if anybody has any questions or wants to learn more or has a story they want to tell me, please let me know.
So yeah, absolutely. And when to go to your website, like as the people who aren't familiar with it, they go over there, they take a look at it. They're going to see that you have a heart for public lands, and it's important to you. I know it is to make sure we conserve public lands. Tell me about that. What kind of danger are they in, and why are they important?
Well, public lands are important for a variety of reasons. For me, they've always been an important place where I kind of reconnect with myself, learn about myself, spend time thinking about the world, learning about the world. In many ways, they're one of America's best ideas, that we take some of our most spectacular places and we set them aside for everybody to use, not just the wealthy, not just the people who could afford, not just the monarchy. So I think that that's a really important part of public lands. In many places, public lands also protect watersheds for drinking water, obviously habitat for animals that we all need to be healthy and have healthy habitats. There are a variety of ongoing threats for public lands. There is not as strong of political support across the board as I would like to see for public lands. So that's been a particular problem the last few years. In addition, there's lots of just general consumption sort of issues that we have with public lands. We don't always look at them as something that we need to preserve for the future and something that provides the base of our economy. And as a result, there's often small forces that are trying to kind of prioritize those uses for other things that may not be in the public good.
So I have a question.
Sorry, and just I guess I didn't answer the entire question, which is, for me, public lands, are really important enough that I spent most of my career working in public lands conservation until the last few years, and so it's been something that's been on my mind for a long time. I primarily worked on BLM lands, Bureau of Land Management lands out west, which are often kind of the redheaded stepchild of public lands management, but these places are still really important. They're places that everybody can enjoy in a very kind of in their own way. There's like a lot of different ways that you can interact with the landscape, whether that's hunting or fishing, whether that's recreating in motorized vehicles, whether that's being on foot or in a boat, or however you want. If you want to go take photos, bird watch, wildlife watch, so many industries actually require public lands to really function. And I don't know if those industries always get the highest level of interest from decision makers.
So I have to ask, because I saw you referenced it on your website, what is backcountry badassery?
So everybody has a different way that they interact with our public lands, and some people have a tradition or an interest in really trying to push themselves and to see what they can accomplish. So, for instance, if you love peak bagging, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to climb the hardest mountains to climb. And there's definitely some badassery going on where people are really trying to push themselves to the limit. For me, that's usually not how I recreate on our public lands. While I occasionally enjoy that, I'm usually there for solitude, for connecting with nature, for spending slower time enjoying where I'm at. So I think you're referencing a post where I contrasted two different styles of of experiencing our public lands. And these days, and maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but I tend to be slower in my recreation.
I love your writing and the articles that you have. Excuse me. And another thing that you write pretty extensively about is being able to have, how should I put this, camping tips. And I think that yours are a little unorthodox.
Oh, are they now?
So like you talk about like just fly somewhere, rent a car and live out of the car. Like tell us a little bit more about that adventure.
Well, which one? I've done that a number of times. One of the things, I've had all these travel quests, one of which was the national parks, one of which was the treasured places, but I have a bunch of other these travel goals, to visit like a particular set of places. And, I live pretty modestly, or as modestly as I can, in order to prioritize travel in my life. And one way that I can continue to do that is to figure out how to travel as cheaply as possible. So that's one way. Camping is one of the best ways to save money when you travel, because not only are you not paying for a hotel, if you're in the West, you can often disperse camp for free. You're probably not eating out at expensive restaurants. You're probably not doing the social night out. Most of my travel tends not to focus in cities anyway. That's not what inspires me. So spending more time out in nature and enjoying a campfire and contemplating what I've seen during the day is like the perfect way of doing it. And, flying and camping is the way to do it if you don't want to drive there. So that's what we've done.
The other thing about you, Scott, that I've noticed is you are a man with goals. You set goals for yourself, and
Yes.
you like to, set out to reach those goals. One of them, and this is a very, very important one, is you are in the process of going to every craft brewery in the state of Arizona. Am I right about that?
Somewhat right. I'm not going there right now because of all the COVID restrictions, but yes, no, that's a quest that I adopted a number of years ago and have completed and stayed kind of active on since then. There's been a few new ones that have opened in the last few months I haven't been able to visit because of the restrictions. We're trying to play it pretty safe. I have some elderly family I interact with pretty regularly, and so I want to make sure that is not a problem. But yes, I've done all the craft breweries, and I started in Phoenix with a little quest around Phoenix. I did not. I was just kind of getting into craft beer at the time, and there was only one or two styles I liked, and I decided to try to create this quest with a friend to kind of force myself to try more. So we decided to go to all the craft breweries together. We order everything on the menu in a little sampler that we share. And then I tried a bunch of styles. And as a result, my palate's changed quite a bit. It's expanded quite a bit. I enjoy craft beer a lot more than I did before. And that's led to a few other quests too. For instance, we finished every craft brewery in all the US territories, which was kind of another travel quest that we had. We finished that a couple years ago. There's not as many as in Arizona, but it was still a lot of fun.
And I use the word goals, right? But you use the word and the term quest. And I think that's also something that is important to you. You've even got some projects that you're working on built around the concept of what a quest is. Fill us in.
Yeah.
To you, what is this thing we would call a quest?
Yeah, so that's the term I use for it. I am trying to make it stick though. But a quest generally is a particular set of places. It's a travel goal where you're trying to visit that particular set. It usually involves visiting all of the blank. So you can kind of fill that in with whatever you want. So I filled that in once with the national parks or all the craft breweries of Arizona, but other people see all the major league ballparks, or my fiance is trying to do all the local coffee shops in our neighborhood. And so there are a variety of different things that you can insert there. But this framework, this quest framework for these travel goals provides like a lot of additional benefits that I think go like above and beyond what a normal travel goal does. Having a goal to see them all, whatever that all is, ends up doing a few things for you. One, primarily, it forces you to have new experiences all the time because you're going to a new place you haven't been to before. And I think that's a great way to grow as a person, to explore more about yourself and about the world. Because of this goal, and a pretty easily communicated goal, there's often a little bit of social pressure. Your friends kind of ask you what your progress is. People want to know about that journey that you're having. So you get asked about it a lot, and that kind of reinforces the motivation to keep going. I think that it also forces you to go to, depending on the quest, but most of them force you to go to places you otherwise wouldn't go to. So some of the more impactful experiences in my life have resulted from these quests that have forced me to go to places I wouldn't have chosen to before. So one of the best visitor center experiences I ever had that really changed my view of America was at the Brown versus Board of Education National Historic Site in Topeka, Kansas. And I growing up in Phoenix, not having to deal with some of these issues on a day-to-day basis, I really didn't look at race issues in any depth until I went there. And they have this dramatic, at least they did when I went there, which has been a while now, they had this dramatic hallway where they have these like floor to ceiling television screens, and they're just kind of playing this like vitriol, like hate being yelled at you. And it was footage from one of the desegregation moments in our history. And walking down that and just kind of being inundated on both sides, it was an experience I had never had before, even really thought of. I knew Brown versus Board of Education as kind of, a boring paragraph in my history textbook. And this was a way to really bring it alive. And I never would have chosen proactively to go to Topeka, Kansas, unless I had this goal that kind of, forced me to go there. But that experience had a big impact on me. And there are countless examples of that. And that's one of the things I think is one of the biggest benefits of Quest. That's one of the things I really enjoy about it. It also helps impose some structure on your travel. We have a lot of friends who struggle to figure out where they're going to go on vacation because there are countless choices, right? If you have the money, you can basically go wherever you want, except for 2020, of course. But having a little bit of structure helps kind of reduce that paradox of choice, where when you have so many options, it's really hard to choose one. And if you choose one, you may not be as happy with it because, I could have gone to that other place. With a Quest, you kind of already have that set goal there, that structure that's already there that kind of helps direct your travel. And I have a bunch of quests. I probably have about, 20, 25 right now that I'm actively pursuing. And so I kind of string them together too. So if I go to one place, I'll try to hit multiple components of various quests. And that helps me to get to new places. It helps me experience more things. One of the things I didn't realize about quests until I really got into it is that, sometimes on a trip, you might go to a place that is not as fun as you had wanted it to be, or, there's some type 2 fun involved in this experience. And when you have a quest, even those unfun experiences are like productive. Like you still feel like, I got that one done. I never have to go back to that place again. So if you're on a regular vacation and you go to the place and you don't like it, well, you're out the entire vacation. And with a quest, you're like, yep, got that done. Now I can move on. And there have definitely been places that I've had that experience with too. So in many ways, it makes unfun travel even feel worth it.
One thing that I love that we've talked a little bit on Twitter about is just your idea of having this community around questing and sharing what the quests are and sharing the stories and cheering each other on and pushing each other outside of the comfort zone. And I think that's just so unique and a different way to think about travel and experiences.
Yeah, quests are really important to me. And I think it's a structure that a lot of people aren't too familiar with, haven't really thought quite a bit about, but I definitely have. And so I'm trying to kind of build a big experience for everybody at a website called goquesting.com, which I'm hoping to launch here in September. But a big part of that is a social community that connects travelers with similar travel goals together, so that they can not only learn about places that they haven't gotten to yet, help better plan for those places, but also kind of support and connect with each other, like you said. I've gotten so much value out of social media over my life. Most of my closest friends I've met online. It's a great way to be able to, connect with your tribe. But at the same time, there are a bunch of downsides of social media, particularly in 2020. And I really wanted to create a space that would try to recreate the best parts of social media while trying to avoid the stuff that we all hate about it. And so that's what I'm trying to do there. I think there's another component of it that I'm really trying to put include in the experience is trying to make travel a little bit more intentional for folks, and have people be able to reflect a little bit more deeply about the travel they do. This is something I'm always struggling with, and I want to kind of use this as an opportunity for personal growth. But everybody I've talked to in a deep way about this feels the same way. And so as part of this, we're really trying to make the community, try to have that make your existing travel more like personally meaningful and rewarding. So there are monthly themes and like guided activities that we try to do as part of this to help inspire people to be a little bit more present during the travel, focus on what matters, maintain the motivation to keep going, really prioritize travel in one's life, maybe over purchases. The best thing about new experiences and memories in general is that they're an appreciating asset. If you're a great financial strategy is to buy stuff that's going to increase in value over time and not buy things that are going to decrease in value. And experiences increase in value as time goes on. The more you think about them, the more you recollect how you felt in those moments, the happier you are. And those memories tend to get better with age. They tend not to get worse with age. So it's something that I'm trying to work with others to really improve in our own lives. And I think that will just increase the personal value that we get from travel.
Absolutely. Our guest today is Scott Jones, joining us here on Wander to the Edge. Scott, all right, we want to make sure people can connect with you. Okay, so let's go through that a little bit. Go Questing is the name, the brand, and the concept here. Look on Twitter, we'd find you at go_questing. Instagram is Go Questing. You're also on Facebook, right?
Yep.
And then you've also mentioned that you've got you got a project later this year. You've got the app coming out, right? Which is going to allow people to interact, I think.
Yeah. So right now, the social community that'll be relaunching in September, I had to put it on hold right as the original launch was going because of a bunch of family health issues. But that has its own app too. It's kind of like a mini Facebook, but specifically focused on quests and connecting with other people that have similar travel goals. We also have a check-in app that we've been working on. A couple buddies of mine and I have been working on for a while, and we're hoping to launch that later this year too. And if you just go to goquesting.com, you can get the links to all that, and we'll make sure to get you connected. And you can also see me on some of those social media channels, although we really are trying to prioritize, that one-on-one connection in the community. So if you head to community.goquesting.com, you can connect with us there, and that's probably where we'll be spending most of our time.
So you mentioned Phoenix, and that's
Yes.
one of my favorite places. My partner, Where Gals Wander, JD, lives in Phoenix. I go out there quite a bit to visit her and have been to some of those craft breweries that you mentioned. But you also have one of the most special places for me, and that's Salt River in the Tonto Forest. And I see your photos that you post on Twitter. And first of all, you're an amazing photographer, so thank you for that. But your photos and your writing for your self-published book, Kayaking on the Salt River. Can you tell us a little bit more about that too?
Sure. So I enjoy kayaking the Lower Salt River. In years past, I haven't been able to do it as much as I'd like because the primary kayaking season is during the summer. And I tend to spend most weekends and most of the summer out of town, traveling to national parks and other places out of state because it can get quite toasty here. So this year, however, has been a little bit different. And I've long had one of the most popular sort of blog posts about how to kayak the Lower Salt River. And this year with the COVID pandemic, we've seen a huge increase in the number of people that are paddling the river, and they're all kind of newbies. They're not exactly sure how to do it, what to do. They don't maybe exactly know the best way of like behaving on the river and kind of the leave no trace principles that I would definitely like to see enacted there. So I decided it would be an interesting pilot project for me. I also run a local conservation group called Arizona Conservation Partners that does a lot of experimental projects, land conservation projects. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity to maybe take that blog post, expand it quite a bit for kind of the new users that are first getting out there, provide a lot more information, and put it on a website where you could actually download it for free if you joined what I'm launching, which is called the Alliance of Salt River Paddlers, which is a user group that's intended to make sure that the kayakers and paddle boarders and the few canoeists that go out have a stronger voice in local public land management of the river, and also provide an opportunity to kind of disseminate more leave no trace information. There's often a lot of misinformation about what's happening on the river, and I wanted one sort of a source with some authority behind it to be able to kind of educate people. So if you go to kayakingthesaltriver.com and you join the Alliance, which is free, basically it's just hopping on an email list, then you can also download the book for free, or you can buy it on Amazon if you'd like. I'm not really into this to make any money. I wanted to use it as a opportunity to learn the book writing process because I have other ideas I want to explore in the future. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to help others get out on the Lower Salt River, learn the right way of doing it, have a great time, and hopefully get back to their community in the Lower Salt River when they can. And the next time you're out here, we should go paddling.
I will.
That's like a deal. And the kayaking thing is something I've wanted to start, right? And there's always a reason not to, and of course it's been a interesting year.
Yes,
but that's been something that's kind of on my mind, and talking to you about it again now, that just reminds me I need to make that happen. Not that I'd ever be great at it, but it's I've done the rafting and some of the canoeing and stuff, but I always admire the freedom that the kayaker has. And I don't know, I've never done it, but any words of wisdom? Should I do it? Should I not do it?
Yes, you should do it. Yeah, and you live in near Atlanta, is it?
Correct. I'm in Atlanta, so there's rivers. Obviously we have the Chattahoochee that runs right through town and all of that.
Sure.
But if you go up to the northern part of the state, on into Tennessee and North Carolina, there are quite a few rivers up there that people go throughout the summer to, kayak and raft. And every time I see the kayakers, I think, I need to do that.
Yeah, I love rafting too, but kayaking is near and dear to my heart, particularly because in the desert, seeking like flowing water that's just outside of city limits is something you do. So, living in Georgia, you have a lot more opportunities to kayak than we do here. But maybe that's in part one reason why this particular place, the Lower Salt River, is near and dear to my heart. There's not many times that you can, paddle past saguaros and see the wildlife that you see just outside of Phoenix. In fact, actually, that's, I believe, the only cold water trout fishery in the country that's located in the desert, the Lower Salt River. So there's a lot of interesting things out there. And the way to get started in kayaking is to go kayaking. So you just have to bite the bullet, find somebody to go with, rent a boat, borrow a boat, rent a guide, do whatever you need to do to get out on the water. A lot of people get kind of freaked out about kayaking the first time because they see videos of people, flipping all the way over and having to turn back around. And for most recreational kayaking, that's not going to be an issue. The Salt River here is often low enough that if you fall in, you just stand up. And that might not be the case in Georgia, but if you just take a few minutes to kind of learn the basics, you can have a great time. And I do have a page with videos of learning to kayak on kayakingthesaltriver.com if you want to kind of brush up on some of the basics before you get out there. But you should do it. Make it happen.
I'm going to check it out.
The Salt River, I have to just mention, you've seen the horses, right?
Yes. It's hard not to.
Yes. So there's
Yeah.
herds and herds of wild horses that are like in the river, and it's amazing. So sorry,
Yeah.
got
No,
excited there again.
an amazing, beautiful country out there, and we get to talk to people like Scott, who Scott's seen so much of it, and he inspires us to get out there ourselves and see more of it. Scott, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your passion for all of this. What's your word, if we, as you leave the listeners and the viewers today, as they think about travel, maybe even as they reflect on this crazy year we're having, your word of advice?
Do whatever you can right now. I mean, in 2020, it's been difficult. We usually travel most weekends. We have a lot of big travel goals, and this has definitely been one of the more difficult years of our lives. But for me, what I've done to try to ensure that I'm still traveling as much as I can is I came up with a lot of other quests or travel goals that were a little bit more local, that were places that I just never quite got around to seeing, in large part because I've been traveling away from the state to see other things. So we have a scenic driving quest for the state of Arizona. So this weekend, we spent some time driving around the state and hitting these scenic drives, which is something you can do kind of as a self-contained unit. My fiance, who has a number of all the other quests as well, she wanted to go to every local independent coffee shop in a neighborhood because we hadn't really supported them in a strong way in the past, and we know that they really need a lot of support right now. I spend a lot of time kayaking the Salt River as much as I can, and I realized, wow, I haven't really kayaked all the lakes in the metro area that I could. So I have a goal to kayak all of those lakes. And some of those I'll hold off until the kayaking, the Salt River season is over, because it is a limited season. But having these other goals, I think, works out really well because it does give you kind of a suite of things to choose from, and a little bit extra motivation to make it happen. And so that's something I would look at doing, is coming up with a travel goal. If you want to kind of get into the idea of questing, definitely reach out to me. I love to promote any quest there is. I'm definitely trying to support everybody who has these types of goals, because I think they're a unique structure that really does improve travel and kind of inspire more adventure in your life. So that would be my primary advice. And if you need some additional motivation, let me know, and I'll bug you until you get out. So you're already on my list, Adam, whether you want to be or not.
Yeah, this is awesome. No, love it.
One more question for you. So next week, August 25th, is the National Park's 104th birthday. How are you going to celebrate that?
I'm not sure, actually. Most of the national parks here are not places that I travel to right now, because they also don't need like the additional visitation. And of course, I've been to the local parks countless times. The National Park Service is a great agency, and I did my best to celebrate in the biggest fashion I could for its 100th birthday. I visited 100 parks in 100 days for that 100th anniversary. And that was a remarkable experience. I did camp in a rental car many times. That was actually supposed to be a trip that lasted a weekend or maybe a week, and I ended up figuring out a way to extend it into 7 weeks, which was amazing. And so, I do my best to celebrate in my own way our public lands as often as I can, and I pay homage to them every time I'm out. I'll continue to do that this weekend. We will be traveling somewhere this weekend. We're not exactly sure where yet, but we'll make that happen.
Another great Saturday afternoon over here on the East Coast, Saturday afternoon travel chat. And that's the vision. That's the vision for this program. We call it Wander to the Edge. And what do we want to do? Bring people like Scott on. He is a fascinating guy, fascinating story, and just to get to introduce you to him and people like him. And that's what we do here every Saturday. It's called Wander to the Edge, and on the East Coast, you catch us at 2 p.m. on the East Coast in the United States, and out in California in the West Coast, that's 11 a.m. And then also in the UK, that's 7 p.m. And then in France, in that area over there, it's going to be 8 o'clock. Okay? There's a test on this tomorrow morning. So he'll be ready. So Scott, you're awesome. I mean, we could probably sit here and talk for hours and hours. The website again, and where we want to be sure everybody goes to is I think you have a couple of different URLs that work here. This is your site, right? R. Scott Jones with the .es.
Yeah, you could also go to rscottjones.com if you prefer.
Say what is it again?
rscottjones.com.
Okay.
That one works as well. They both go to the same place, and that's just my personal blog. That's mostly for me. There's definitely posts that others can read and would probably get value from. There's also goquesting.com, which is the questing stuff if you want to get into that. And otherwise, I prefer people like communicating with me and not just reading my stuff. So feel free to get in contact with me, R. Scott Jones at any social media.
Well, thank you so much, Scott.
Appreciate thank you time.
Too. I have a feeling that you're going to be on a quest this coming week.
Seems likely.
Yeah, it does. All right, brother. Thank you so much for your time. Fascinating guy, and I'm going to take you up on that invitation. Let's go kayaking.
Yeah, anytime. Let me know.
All right, Scott. I'll see you on Twitter.
All right. Take care.
All right, okay. Thanks, Scott. Thank you, Zan. And thank you, everybody, for joining us right here for another edition of Wander to the Edge. We'll see you next weekend.